Hey everyone, let's jump right into this explainer. Imagine packing up and leaving the cradle of Earth. And I don't mean just for a quick 6-month mission. I mean leaving to live permanently in the extreme, totally unforgiving environments of the Moon and Mars. Today, we're exploring the profound biological, architectural, and psychological evolution that's absolutely required to transform a temporary science outpost into a permanent, self-sustaining, off-world settlement.
Here's a quick look at our agenda for today. 1. The Xity concept. 2. The gravity prescription. 3. The split life cycle. 4. Curing black sky blues. 5. The Great Middoors. And 6. Isolation and enlightenment.
All right, part 1, the Xity concept.
So, what does it actually take to live permanently off Earth? It's a massive question, right? And it forces us to completely move past the era of short-term missions and truly confront the reality of permanent off-world survival. It's one thing to pack a few months' worth of freeze-dried supplies for a science outpost, but a multi-generational settlement? That requires a completely new framework for how we even view human habitation.
To do that, we literally have to drop the word city from our vocabulary. Our new settlements are going to require a hard outer shell just to contain a very fragile, completely man-made biosphere. We call this a Xity, spelled with an X for extraterrestrial, but pronounced with a hard K. That hard K sound is meant to represent the hard pressure hull protecting that man-made mini biosphere inside. Because unlike cities here on Earth, which sit comfortably within a massive maternal biosphere, a Xity has to generate and maintain its entire life support system completely from scratch.
In a Xana city, there's absolutely no outside nature to fall back on. There's no somebody else's backyard or downwind to push your pollution toward. Humans and vegetation are locked in this immediate, highly interdependent fight for survival. In this environment, civic responsibility isn't just a nice moral choice. Responsibility is a literal chemical equation. It's about the sheer majesty of creating a verdant, vibrant world right in the middle of the monotonous gray of the lunar void, where maintaining that delicate balance is everyone's highest, shared purpose.
Which brings us to part 2, the gravity prescription.
Think about it. We've had millions of years of evolution essentially custom building our bodies for Earth's 1g of gravity. Trying to biologically reproduce in the 1/6 gravity of the Moon, or even the 1/3 gravity of Mars, carries some massive, completely unknown risks. This necessitates what researchers are calling a gravity prescription, or GRX. We already know microgravity is an absolute showstopper for human health, but we don't yet know the exact minimum dosing of gravity required for healthy conception, gestation, and early child development.
So how do we solve that? That's part 3, the split life cycle.
Because we can't just build surface settlements and hope human biology magically adapts overnight, researchers propose this really fascinating workaround called the split life cycle model. Instead of choosing between a planetary colony or an orbital habitat, we actually do both. Colonists would raise their children in Earth normal gravity orbital centers, basically a rotating cosmic crèche up in orbit. Then, once those kids are physically mature, they migrate down to the surface settlement to live and work. Now that is a pretty epic daily commute.
Moving right along to part 4, curing black sky blues.
Okay, picture this. Once our hypothetical humans are safely down on the surface, they face an entirely new threat. Even at high noon on the Moon, the unfiltered sun creates a pitch-black sky. Since there's no atmosphere to scatter the light, you get extremely high contrast, bottomless visual pits wherever shadows fall. Over time, living under that unrelenting black sky causes severe eye strain and a subtle but incredibly dangerous drop in morale. This psychological strain is known as the black sky blues.
To cure these black sky blues, we've got to throw our whole earthly concept of going outdoors right out the window. On Earth, you have the indoors and you have the outdoors. But on the Moon, stepping outdoors means stepping into a radiation-washed, deadly vacuum, what they call the outvac. The solution to this is a brand new architectural paradigm. We call it the Middoors.
Let's explore exactly what that looks like in part 5, the Great Middoors.
So what are the Middoors? They're going to be these massive, high-ceilinged, pressurized common spaces packed with lush vegetation. Think of it as a huge indoor parkway bridging your private quarters and the deadly void of space outside. And here's a really brilliant engineering detail.
Rather than keeping these mid-door spaces at a boring, constant room temperature, engineers can actually design them to fluctuate by about 15 degrees throughout the lunar month. This creates a really psychologically beneficial rhythm of tempered mini-seasons for the people, the plants, and the animals living inside.
And to really beat those black sky blues, architects are going to use curved vault ceilings. By finishing those ceilings with a matte blue texture and using indirect cove lighting, or even funneling actual sunlight in through mirrors and lenses, they can completely recreate the illusion of a bright, endless blue sky. And look, this isn't just an aesthetic luxury. Giving our pioneers the visual relief they crave is an absolute hard psychological requirement to keep everyone sane.
Finally, we reach part 6, isolation and enlightenment.
You know, the sheer physical isolation of living deep inside a lunar cavern or a lava tube completely strips away all of our normal terrestrial distractions. Down here on Earth, it's pretty easy to project our egos into status symbols or social hierarchies. But the absolute silence of the moon, it forces an inescapable existential audit. It triggers what researchers call a controlled detonation of the ego, forcing a pioneer to deeply reevaluate their very identity and their connection to the people around them.
All of this intense cognitive restructuring leads straight to a totally unique state of enlightenment. The petty conflicts we have on Earth simply vanish when you're up against the harsh, undeniable laws of physics. In Xity, survival is never guaranteed. The majesty of maintaining that delicate chemical equation becomes the ultimate shared human purpose. It literally forces an entirely new social contract based strictly on mutual survival, where deep empathy is a fundamental requirement just for the settlement to function.
So, as we look toward the stars and dream up these incredible modular biospheres, I want to leave you with this thought. Will the brutal, unforgiving isolation of space be the very catalyst that forces humanity to finally evolve past our terrestrial limitations? It's a fascinating question to ponder. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and remember to keep looking up.